So I forgot how we do this. I think we just jump into it. Right? Neil talked about it during the last show, but maybe we do just talk, kind of set the scene for, or set the stage for where we're coming from in this episode, and not worry about the actual future yet, but just set the stage of like what has changed during our careers to really, I think that might just be kind of a fun storytelling time. And then leave it at that for this episode, right? To say like, okay, and at the end it's like, okay, where do we go from here?
Tune in next time.
Because then the next one is like, who knows what. I mean, we might look at actually rearranging our boards based on the where we get to in these in each episode, to talk about what's next. Because we should be talking about the office of the future and the student of, what do students need to operate in the future. I think that's one of the cards in there, and the future of design process. And I think there's a lot of things that a lot of directions we could go, but let's set the stage. All right. Neil.
So I thought we'd start this series off by talking a little bit about what defines architecture, or what defines an architectural career in the 21st century. But to do so, I thought we should maybe take a look back at what defined an architectural career in the 20th century. But I think if we look back at, say, the last century of this profession and what happened, maybe that will give us some idea of direction. The changes that occurred over the last century, I don't think anybody could have predicted, or the movements that happened in architecture, especially beginning around 1920 or in the late teens, early 20s, really kind of changed the course of what really happened in the 20th century. So are we a year or two away from a similar movement or direction in architecture and the profession that will completely change? Or is there another new movement that we're right on the cusp of experiencing now in the 21st century that may set design trends or some sort of movements that will propel us or the profession in directions that we probably can't even guess? So maybe to start off looking at that is maybe kind of looking at our own careers, because I think that when it comes to the production of documents, if you will, the instruments of service that we employ has really changed quite dramatically, at least in our careers. And that might be fun to kind of start off that way by looking at our own careers and what sort of change kind of set the table. And maybe we can even go into a little bit of the history of the last century too as well. But what's your guys' thoughts on that?
Some things pop into my head during this, and I do not want to derail this because this can be a fun episode down memory lane. But a couple things that came to mind were that what's really interesting, I think, about this whole idea is that the way we do it almost doesn't matter, because it's the buildings that transcend time. And so the buildings seem to, at least they used to, last longer than we do.
Right.
And so there is no like hard stop on centuries for buildings, right? Or at least we could hypothesize that a building could, bridge the gap or last that long. I mean, there's definitely examples of said buildings but most of the buildings produced today don't last that long. And then the other thing that I think is interesting is that we've gone through so many shifts in the way that we make things, and like you even said, like produce documents as like a major career thing. And I almost wonder if we think back to the projects that matter, the ones that we experience and are blown away by, did the process of production have anything to do with that? Or was it simply the strength of the wills of the people involved and the strength of the ideas and the outcomes? And because then I start to think about the value of an architect and where we should really be thinking about that. Is it really in the production of said drawings, or is it in the value of the ideas? And I definitely have thoughts about that. I've been thinking about this lately. So it's not just totally coming out of left field, but it is an interesting kind of, I just want to throw those things out there because maybe those types of thoughts could influence future episodes in this series.
Well, also, and let me throw this on the fire as well, because Neil, you started talking about, and yes, I did totally lay off the opportunity for many jokes about age.
Don't worry, we'll have plenty of time for that.
Let's talk about the last century. Well, of course you can talk about the last century. You worked in all of no, just kidding. No, but no, what I thought about it, and so you'd gone back to like say, think about the architecture of the 1920s and time about that. I mean, not only was there a change in the way we were producing documents, but there was a change of the way we were producing buildings and the construction technology that was changing at the time. And then I think in a way, and again, don't want to derail the conversation. I think this is something that we could save for a later conversation, but I think we've reacted to the way that the building industry has changed, the type of materials, the way that they build and the engineering behind some things. And so we've changed, and then vice versa, they've changed because of the way we're, kind of like in many cases leading the way, and some cases, following behind the trend in technology shifts and stuff. So I think there's a lot of different layers to unpack on how building technologies, how building construction, and how, the delivery method has really affected the way that we actually practice as well.
Yeah, I think this is all really interesting stuff. So let's start. Let's just set the stage for this series with, let's all talk about how much things have changed since we started in the profession. All right, so who wants to go first?
Grandpa Pan.
How much do you want to edit here?
I seconded that.
Well,
it's back in my day.
Yeah. But
how far did you have to walk to the office both ways?
Uphill in the snow.
Yeah, uphill in the snow. Yes, exactly. Well, one of the first things that comes to mind as to some of the changes that have occurred, even in my career, is the most obvious one. It sits on the side of my desk, actually, and that's the code. In looking at the building code, in the first version of the building code I purchased myself, and when I was back in college, was the 1998 version of the UBC, which was the building code for California at the time. And I think it's maybe an inch to an inch and a half thick.
Yeah, I think I have like a 1984 code book around here somewhere
right.
that I had picked up at a used bookstore when I was in high school, when I was thinking about being an architect.
Right. And so, I mean, the things that it covered were, obviously much less. Now we've got this multiple volume set. I've got binders, and just the main building code is 2 binders, parts 1 and 2. And then you've got the residential portion of the code, which is like, additional stuff that's separate. You've got the green building code, at least here in California. We have that separate piece. Those are the main pieces that I use almost on a daily basis. And then you've got your plumbing code, mechanical code, those. And I don't dive into as often because most of what I need to refer to is in the main building code. But I mean, that's one of the things that just that we've had to deal with during my career is just the explosion in the code book and all the rules and regulations. Not to mention just the process of getting a project approved.
Well,
through the entitlement process all the way through to construct, to a building permit has radically changed in the time frame that it takes. This past week, I was presenting to a planning commission and kind of turning the tables. I've served on a planning commission for 8 years, and now I'm presenting in front of another one. And this project took a year, more than a year. I think it first applied for entitlement in March of 2019. Jesus, my dates are all off here.
Memory's going.
Yeah, memory's starting to go here already. It just last year in 2018. And so it was a year-long plus process to even get this project to get a planning commission approval. And I mean, we haven't even started construction drawings or anything like that to begin construction. So just the timeline and the process. And we talk about one of the hot topics right now is, housing and the lack of it and the cost of it. Well, when you take over a year to get a project entitled, those costs end up getting paid for somehow. And so I think that has really been a huge shift in the timeline that it takes to get a project approved and to get it built, and the codes and all of the regulations that go into generating a project nowadays or getting a project built. And the cost to do so has just ballooned and exploded during my career. That's one of my first thoughts.
Well, think about this though. So, it's interesting because as you started talking about like the codes and the code changes and how that's kind of affected, our careers. I mean, think about like the evolution of and why, a lot of these have changed, because first we kind of had like everybody had their own. You said that you were on the UBC.
Right.
I remember my first job interview where I'm sitting in the principal's office of the firm that I was interviewing with, and he asked me a question. He's like, "What building code do we fall under?" And I will admit to you, I had no clue, but I was observant enough to look right behind his head to see the code book sitting on his shelf.
Nice.
And I was like, "I believe it's the SBC." And he's like, "You're right." I'm like, I wouldn't know that.
Sure.
It's just, I was like, bingo. But I mean, so we had like SBC, UBC, and BOCA, and all these things, and all of them had their strengths for what they were, but they were all regional codes, and it almost made sense to come under the one uniform code of IBC now, but because we had the earthquakes in San Francisco, we had Hurricane Andrew, that was a big prompt for the major change in the Florida building code, taking the IBC that was just recently adopted, and then when 2003 Florida building code hit, that was a major change in the Florida building code. I mean, it was enormous, and it had a huge cost impact. I mean, at the time, we were looking at like a 30% increase just making a code minimum building, and that was enormous. And we, had a lot of people who were, started to get pretty shaky on what they want, if they wanted to do a project or not because of cost increase, because in our particular market in Florida, everything had to be tested. And if like those manufacturers didn't pay for all of the testing, they couldn't be used in Florida. And
it's still the case today.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
I mean, it has repercussions that we still see.
I mean, one story is that, so we were designing a building. It was actually one of my first major projects. We were designing the curtain wall system under EVCO. And, so we had everything designed around it. Then the 2003 Florida building code hit. Nobody but Conair had paid money for the testing. And so,
which is hundreds of thousands of dollars usually, or at least nowadays.
It went from a open bid where, you had one basis of design and then you had all of these other ones that were approved equals, to just one, because that's all that you could build with.
Huge advantage for them.
And so they were like, well, market's cornered. Nobody else, as of right now, there is no competition for us, and we can jack up whatever price we want, because if you want a curtain wall, here's what you're going to have to pay for it.
Well, and they did cost more, right?
Yeah.
Because
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
this reminds me of that text you sent earlier about not being able to build things like you used to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is that you couldn't get away with stuff that you used to be able to get away with, and that's still happening, right? But it's like you said, building cost went up 30%, and you could no longer build them like you used to. You could no longer get away with certain things, and I mean, let's be honest, like a lot of architecture is trying to get away with things and interpreting the code to your advantage. I mean, really, if you think about this, this really is the matrix, right? The interpretation of the falling rain of green symbols on the screen. That's what the building code is, and all these different codes that we had to work through and work with and decipher them and try to get things to work together that were never thought about to work together. And I mean, it is a giant puzzle that we're talking about putting together here and trying to decipher and get away with things that obviously still fall under the umbrella of health, safety, and welfare. But I mean, there are some constraints that we get tricky with. Right?
Yeah.
That's what working with the code is all about.
So just since you mentioned the text that I sent you guys, I'll kind of like tell it to everybody, because some people will get a kick out of it and some people are like, yeah, that's exactly what. So I had sent, because I had overheard a conversation to young people in our office. They were talking about it, and it's like, so the exact quote was, "That may have been fine back in the day," which is what was like kind of struck me. It's like, I mean, they could get away with more back in 2002. I'm like, now
it's not that long.
I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, 2002, that's like, it's 17
Yesterday.
That's 17 years ago, and that's like literally yesterday. I mean, I guess when you're young, I mean, the perspective is that that's a long time ago. But when that's like middle of my life, I'm like, yeah, that was a long time ago. I mean, or
I have a child that old. Yeah.
Actually, my first child was 2 years before that. The next child came a year after that. So it's just...
Well, I like to sometimes think of that. I get it. The time frame seems not that long ago for us, but for some people, it seems like a long time ago. And
what I'd like to them, right?
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's before them. But I like to sometimes put that into my own perspective, which is, okay, so say I was 20 years old and referring back to something that was 20 years before that, or something to that effect. Like, oh, well, the late 60s, yeah, that was a long time ago. What was my perception of, take a period of time and then say 20 years or 30 years before that, and then go, oh yeah, that just seems like it was ancient back then. And I probably would have said the very same thing.
Oh, totally.
So,
like,
well, let's just say it right now. Like when we were teenagers, or even maybe before that, but like you didn't have to wear seatbelts, right? So you could get away with a lot more back then.
Yeah,
I hit my head against the door once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, you're totally right, because, I was thinking about this. Think about when you were 20 and maybe a 35-year-old guy was like telling you a story or something, and you're like, yeah, that's nice, Grandpa. 35.
That's right. That's right.
And you're like, wow. And we're on the other side of 35.
Yeah, by a few years. So I think the other thing that had a major impact during my career so far is technology changes. Right? I mean, because for many years, the technology in our architectural practice of this profession really hadn't changed. However, when I do a little bit of research into this, there were a number of changes that took place during the 20th century. Things like rapidograph drawing pens came into style, or started to be used in the 1930s, and that changed the way drawings were done. And they weren't just done by pencil anymore. And so and that may not seem like a big deal, but when you're trying to make a blueprint of a pencil drawing that has graphite spread all over it, and in comparison to doing a nice inked drawing and making a print of that. I mean, it's a huge difference technologically when it comes to generating prints, right? That were used to.
You?
Well, no, I'm just referring. I'm just referring to when this stuff changed, right?
Okay, because you're like you're opining on it like it's like firsthand knowledge.
Well, not quite, but I mean, I did draw a lot with pencil, and when you're running blueprints, and I'm left-handed, and
I think
so
we all,
my left-handed hand, for left-handed people, it was a pain in the ass because basically my hand it would just spread across the drawing. The whole side of my left hand would just be full of graphite, and that affects the quality or the clearness of the vellum that you would be running through the blueprint machine, right? And if you used ink, other than the fact that you'd smear it, which is a real pain in the ass, or you'd have to, and then although I thought, and I didn't do the research on this, but when you remember those electric erasers we used to have, right?
Yeah, I'm looking
and
at them right now.
and when I first discovered let's see, what color was it? It was yellow. There's this yellow stick that you could put into
the ink eraser.
The eraser. Yeah, and it was for ink, and you could just like erase this stuff, right? And it was like magic to me, right?
I mean, chew the paper away.
Yeah, you could just chew the paper away too, which sometimes happens.
Now, since we're on this Wayback Machine, you're talking about drawing on vellum, but since we probably all did, maybe Evan might not have, but since we probably did, what was your preference, drawing on Mylar or drawing on vellum?
Oh, vellum. Mylar was just felt like maybe the difference between.
Well, there were two sides to the Mylar. There was the smooth side.
There was the smooth side. Well, you drew on the smooth side. You didn't draw on the rough side.
But you could. You could.
You were supposed.
You don't.
No, you were supposed to draw on the rough side because the rough side was what held the ink. The smooth side was just basically what held the drawing surface on. The drawing surface was the actual
if you drew
rough
on
side.
that. If you drew on that smooth side, it felt good, right? Like it felt good with that rapidograph.
Did you guys not know that?
Well,
but the pen would flow like the ink would just flow like crazy.
Sure, but
it wouldn't stay where you wanted it to.
But it wouldn't.
I get, yeah. Or if you guys had the special ink versions of all your triangles, right?
Yep. Yeah, with the little
step in it, so that the ink wouldn't bleed underneath.
Actually,
well, people would, you just stack up.
I was like, you go old school and you
create your own.
Oh, well, that's true. I never did that.
We always
done that.
I did that all the time.
So,
in fact, I still.
So let's reel this back in. So, one thing that I thought it would be fun to do is actually talk about like what the office was like when you started versus what it. I mean, we all know what it's like now, but maybe paint a picture of what it was like. When I was in college and I started my first office, and so I started drafting when I was in junior high in a mechanical drafting class, and we drew technical drawings with leader dimensions, and everything was like decimal point dimensions, and it wasn't architectural at that point yet. We were drawing on 8.5 by 11, mechanical drawing. We were drawing on 8.5 by 11 vellum, and that was. I'd never seen vellum before that, right? And then when I got into high school, I had architectural drafting class. I started in regular drafting, and then I moved into architectural drawing. And it was funny that you brought up electric eraser because everybody had their own tools, right? And that was and that was the thing in the offices. Everybody had their own tools, and I still have my own tools. I still have some of my old drafting tools, and in some cases they're newer drafting tools because. Rolling rulers didn't exist or whatever.
Right.
And they're super useful to have sometimes, right? So, but back then, we had lettering guides and small triangles for lettering, and we had larger triangles for drawing, and we had drafting arms and Maylines and all these
T-square
tools. Yeah, we had all the things, right, to do the drawings with. And you brought up electric erasers, and one of the things that I had done because I was such a nerd was I actually took an old Duracell flashlight and dismantled it, flipped the mirror around, stuck a Radio Shack motor into there, and made my own wireless electric eraser.
Wow.
Yeah, and what was funny was like it was a project
We called it cordless back in the day.
Yeah, why exactly?
Wireless.
You're right.
Jesus, what the hell?
It didn't run off Wi-Fi.
He had an app on his phone.
Yeah, but I did an exploded axonometric drawing of this invention that I had made, right? And it was fun, but it did not hold a candle to the real corded electric erasers that spun at 1,000 RPM.
If you would have patented it, because I have. So
I never had a cordless one.
I
couldn't afford it.
I record downstairs in my basement, which I'm usually surrounded by my bookshelves of all of my architectural books, but I also have hanging up on the wall. I'm looking at all of my triangles, all of my French curves, my flexible curve.
Yep.
I've got 2 electric erasers. It's like, so, I'm looking at my museum of all of the stuff that I used to use.
Yeah, I had a stand-up Mayline table, and back when we were in school, we all had tall stools because when you're standing around, you could not really sit around and draw because the table was so big, right? You had to stand up to reach, and you had I don't know if you guys had what types of drafting arms you had on your table, but mine was the kind that was more like a human arm, right? It moved in and articulated in all these different directions.
No.
It wasn't the sliding type.
Yeah, I never had one of those, but I wish I did because I like.
It was super cool. It just
drafting
looked cool.
machine.
Yeah, and then there was the standard, just the Mayline ruler that you would just sat on cables on both sides, and you would just use a parallel bar, right? It was a glorified T-square at that point that never got off kilter. But when I started, it was all CAD, right? And so that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up, was because one of the first major shifts in architecture during our lifetimes was going from hand drawing to computer drawing, right? Computer aided drafting and design, right? CAD, CADD. There's 2 D's in CAD, at least there used to be,
right?
And so when I would also, I also started in MicroStation like you. Our office was in the office I still work in today. It was all MicroStation. We had the big tablets with the pucks on them because there were several commands built into the tablet that you could choose from. The digitizer. And it was really interesting, right? Because it had a very particular sound to it when people would tap on these pucks. So this was, the mouse was not good enough, was really the thinking back then, right?
Yeah.
It could not be as precise. You didn't want to rely on all the tools on the screen of the computer. You wanted easy, air quotes, access to all the tools that the CAD software program had to offer, and they were on the drawing surface. It's not really a drawing surface, right? But sometimes you would even lay a drawing underneath a piece of plastic on the drawing tablet, and you would trace it using your puck, which substituted for a mouse. It was usually a smaller version. It was corded. It had 4 buttons on it, and it also had a little magnifying glass with a crosshair in it.
With the little circle with the crosshairs on it.
Yeah, right. And so that you could actually trace a hand drawing into the computer with that thing. It was a digitizer. Because scanners were thousands of dollars back then. Like now you've got a scanner in your pocket.
If they were even accessible.
Right. And they weren't. And so yeah, you would, a lot of times an architect would draw something by hand and then somebody would digitize it, right? It wasn't even that you were necessarily going into CAD and drawing things to some dimension. You were drawing it at the scale the architect drew it at.
Right.
Which was a sketch or something they had drawn on the drafting boards, and then it was being put into the CAD machine, right? And there was only a few of those usually in the offices. But in ours, everybody had a giant 17-inch CRT, and giant, 17-inch monitor was enormous back then. And not only enormous from a physical standpoint, because it was, right? But it was also just the biggest TV you had ever seen. And it's sitting on everybody's desk. And it took significant funds for architectural firms to shift into technology side of things away from the drafting tables, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that architectural offices had never had to do before. So that was like one of the first big shifts. But I also will say that I think it is one of the worst things that ever happened to architecture was the commoditization of the tools, because no longer did you need training to do drawing. And I guess, there's good and bad with that. I shouldn't say it's all bad, but it did make it so that anybody could draw. And that's when anybody could draw all of a sudden. Like, it no longer had the artistry to it. You no longer had to kind of sweat how you drew and your technique anymore. It just leveled the playing field. And leveling the playing field is not always a good thing for a profession like this.
Let me tell you a story. So, summer of 93 or 4, I was just after my second year in architecture school. A architecture firm in Montgomery, Alabama, was looking for summer intern, which ended up turning out to be like I worked for them part-time as a draftsman, which had a very disastrous beginning. So my very first job there was to draw a big, massive floor plan on a 24 by 36 piece of Mylar. A floor plan of a church that was being, a new church that was being constructed in Montgomery, Alabama. And so, they gave me all of the sketches, they gave me everything and showed me what needed to, happen. And I had my, introductory to drafting, architectural drafting in, my first year and second year. And so, I'm like, all right, okay, I got this. And so I drew it, and he came up and he's like, well, this is good. He's like, but we're going to throw it away and you're going to start over. And I was like, looking at him like, oh, what the hell? He's like, you use the same pen in the same pen weights for everything. And
that's a good lesson.
It's like, and I had, because I didn't know, like, we knew how to draft, but we didn't really fully understand like the nuances of the different line weights and all of those other things. Graphics. It's like this line weight means this versus this versus this, and the hell if I knew anything about Poche.
You drew with a pencil or a mechanical pencil, even if you were really a nerd, right? That was a weight. Exactly. And you didn't know why people would choose a different weight because the weight you chose was the right weight.
And so,
right. Some people like the thicker lead and some people like the thinner lead. And it was like, well, why is there, we never actually thought, why are there different lead thicknesses, right? At that age.
Yeah.
Well, and the reason was is because you had several tools that allowed you to do weight, but weight wasn't a thing when you didn't know about it. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, before weight or thickness of it's the softness of the lead, right? You had 2H
it's the softness
and F
and it was your technique, right?
It was like you change pencils.
You would just move your parallel bar a little bit and make that line thicker. You would draw it again again. You would build it up.
You would drop the pencil down, and so it would draw a thicker line, or you would move it up, or you would. Think about this. If you remember the little sandpaper board that you had where you could like sharpen your pencil, so you can get that really
chisel
fine,
it down.
Yeah, you get that really fine point and everything else. And there was just like all of these like weird artistic like ways to actually like draft something.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting because now it's like, I'm sure that people don't even think about how we've gotten to where we are with different like the torture of going through AutoCAD and not seeing the weight on the screen and learning how to read color as weight, right? Translated in your brain. And now it is more what you see, what you get right on the screen inside of Revit
the good thing is that,
right?
you can, you can toggle back and forth between, turning your line weights on and turning your line weights off. And so, you draft and, with the line weights off. So it's, just a nice thin line so you can see everything. And then you click the little button and line weights come on and you're like, oh, okay. That's what they.
Yeah, but you do that so you can build a super precise model, which you gave no craps about back
Exactly.
then, right? You would write the dimension that it was supposed to be,
That's right.
whether it was that or not on the paper.
Oh my God! I mean,
NTS, baby.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. So
It's not to scale for those of you that don't know.
So let me ask you this. So this was something that we used to discuss a lot about the transition from, drawing on a drafting board and going to the computer where it's on a 17-inch screen, or now 32-inch screen, or a 27-inch or 21, or whatever it is that you have in front of you now. The thing that we were, the kind of the transitional architect, or even the guys before us, who were the beauty of having your drawings out on the board and you could see the entire drawing and everything is when people would come by to take a look at it, they could see everything and they could like comment on it, like, oh, you're missing this or that. So you see the whole thing. And it was, my professors used to always say, you've got your entire drawing right in front of you. So, get up, take a step back.
Yep. Stand
look
back.
at it,
Yep.
right. Move in.
Yep.
Kind of.
That's impossible.
And you
nowadays.
can't even do that. And now, literally, you're only looking at bits and pieces of.
You're zoomed in all the time.
Right. So you're looking at those bits and pieces, and you never really see holistically the entire thing. And so then, when you really start to like audit and take a look at the model, you're like, oh, that doesn't work. It's because you were hyper focused in on this, but you didn't realize that you weren't even chamfering your corners, or like your corners didn't close, or something like that. Or it's just like, or you look at something and you're just like, that's not really how it works, and so it was just always interesting to have that conversation about being that micro view, macro view kind of look at the drawing and stuff. And now, if we really want to see it, what do? We print it out, and then here's just
or you project it on a wall. I don't know what do people do?
Or you project it on a wall or something. But so most of the time we all print them out. Well, let's be honest with you.
But you just print it on 11 by 17.
Or if you do print it,
that's fast.
Yeah, or if you print it out full scale, you print it out, you mark it up, you make your changes, and then you print it out again to take a look at it to make sure it's good, and then you print it out again, and then you print it out again. The thing that I find so amusing about the paperless office is we use more paper in a paperless office than we would have when we were actually drawing on paper, because paper was so expensive. You had to get it right the first time.
Right.
Or, you pretty much, like me, more or less almost broke down like, oh crap, I just cost them, all this time and all this effort and all this money for me drawing this floor plan wrong, that now I have to do it again, and damn sure I got it right the second time. But so now I like created 2 pieces of paper instead of 200 pieces of paper. Yeah. And if you think about it, it also, in a way, I find this so amusing, because I looked at some of the old drawing sets that I put together by hand. Now, it wasn't a lot, because I was getting into the firm that I worked for in Montgomery, Alabama, which was just it was about a year and a half that I worked there. And when I started working there, we were all drafting, but there was their draftsman that was basically working on the AutoCAD. And so they were trying it out with the big digitizers and all that other stuff. And of course, the firm didn't, even though it was one of the oldest firms in Alabama, it didn't have the money to go out and like, let's just have everybody on a computer and let's do all the training and let's do all of this. No, they had a few people doing it. Other than that, everybody else just was drafting by hand. And so the sets that we drafted by hand were a lot smaller because we were very succinct with it. Now, if you think about it, I'm doing like hundreds of pages of sets. We're making these massive, I jokingly call them IKEA catalogs of documents that we have to cut every single solitary bit, because we can't leave anything to chance. We got to make sure they know every, nook and cranny of it. Whereas we almost,
and then they don't use
and
those.
then we don't use it, because then you get the RFIs that were just like, well, I don't really understand, this detail.
We don't build it like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, it's kind of funny that, in a way, and this is the old man rant, I suppose, but, in a way it's funny that as we transitioned from hand drafting to computer aided drafting, we lost quite a bit of both. I mean, now you can't even, here's just a complaint that I have, you can't even get away with using, well, that's means and methods. Because, when you drew it on, by hand, you weren't going to draw every detail. So you literally said means and methods. And they're like, all right, yeah, we'll interpret it. We'll give you what we think you want, or we will give you what it looks like, but we'll build it our way. And we didn't dictate how to build it.
The promise was always that technology was going to make it so that you had to do less, right? And it's totally been the opposite, and it continues to be the opposite.
Yeah.
BIM takes longer than it even did with CAD. In CAD, because you draw more, you're trying to, like you said, figure out every little thing that is potentially not even going to be used on the project. And you're right. Like when I was in high school and I won the student housing design competition, and I had to draw up a set of drawings for the house that was going to be built, it was like 5 sheets.
Yeah.
And then I handed that over to the other ROP program where they were going to build the house, and they took it and ran with it. And it wasn't like there was no fighting about that, right? There was no, you didn't draw enough. It was like, we'll take it from here because that's what we do. I think that's really an interesting point, because, and that is probably one of the bigger downfalls of BIM, is like, you can put more and more and more and more into these things, but that only works if people are going to get things out of it.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let me give you just a basic example. Back in the day, when we drew a electrical plan, we drew the location for all of the different outlets, right? And so we drew our little symbol for the outlet of where we wanted to put it. Now, if we were very precise about where we wanted it on that wall, we would dimension it and say, okay, 18 inches off of this corner would be that outlet. But then at the very most, we would maybe do a elevation, one like drawing maybe, of all of the elevations of all of the different devices. And that would be it. We would assume that, okay, you want this outlet 18 inches off of the ground, or wherever we decided to specify it. And they would put every outlet in the entire building 18 inches off the ground. Or otherwise, unless otherwise noted. However, so we modeled in a couple of areas where we modeled in in fact, actually, I don't even think we modeled it in. I think our, electrical engineer modeled it in, but they just modeled it in based off of the plan, and they didn't really actually have any elevation to it. So when the contractor got the plan, even though our drawings had an elevation of all of the device mounting heights, of everything, of the outlets, of the switches, of the thermostats, everything, they were looking at the model. They weren't looking at our drawings. They were looking at the model and said, you have all of your stuff, basically 1 inch off of the ground. Is that really where you want them? And you look at him and it's like, Jesus, really? Look. And, I mean, we could get into like where we've overthought a lot in BIM, but we aren't playing to our audience of what the actual intent of a lot of this stuff are. And so now, these are becoming less construction documents and more intent documents. What did you intend to do here?
Yeah, and that also goes back to my idea of the value. Where does our value actually lie? And is it really in the production of the drawings for the drawing's sake, and for the the agency that you have to get approval through? I mean, and because is it really for the final product?
Yeah.
The building? Probably not. Like, are you really going to outdraft a contractor nowadays?
Don't we design by RFI now?
Or ever? Yeah. Well, let's get back to what else has changed. I mean, like, so when I was in college, that was really when the first time I had ever laid eyes on something in 3D.
Yeah.
And that was probably my third year.
Whoa.
And it was Form Z at that point. Or, some people were using AutoCAD 3D, which is, still a thing. I can't believe it.
Which is funny, though, because that must have been later. Because, I think the first, and I don't know about you, Neil, but so you start, when did you start school, Evan?
92.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually started school around the same. When did you graduate?
97.
Okay. So then you started the same time I did, and we didn't even have AutoCAD. Everything was Form Z. And so that was the first, time. In fact, actually, I hadn't used an actual drafting program, a 2D drafting program, until MicroStation. That was the first. That was the first one that I ever used.
We did have man, I can't remember the version, but we actually had a pen plotter in our architectural building, and you had to buy the pens yourself, right? Everybody had their own pen, and it would last a couple of drawings before you had to buy another one.
Yeah.
But you had to queue up in line and try to get your drawing plotted for that class final, right? And it was there was one plotter. You couldn't go anywhere else and get a print. I did have my own laser printer at home, which was unheard of because when I bought my first Mac through the school, I also bought a 300 DPI laser, Apple laser writer, and it was slow as hell.
Yeah. It
would take half an hour to get your essay out of that thing, right? But so I could that was one of the beauties of Form Z, right? Was that you could actually print a big drawing over several sheets of 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper and tape them all together. Right? And then hand draw on vellum over the top of that to make it look like one big drawing. Yeah. Right? So, the funny tricks but it was Form Z and it was version 2. And back then you could purchase it through a student program and you could make a payment once a year for the next 3 years of $250 or whatever. And at the end, when you graduated, you had your own legal copy of the professional version of Form Z, which I thought was super cool. And I totally did that because it was a tool that I continued to use for many years after that. I just thought that was fantastic. Whereas AutoCAD, right, Photoshop, all these, there was no way that you were going to purchase that because it was a single purchase license. You had to pay it all at once. And everybody pirated it anyway, right? Because that was actually part of it. I think they fought it in the beginning, and then it became part of their business model, right? Get everybody hooked on these, and then when they do become professionals, that they won't know any other tools, and they'll have to use ours. I just thought that was kind of a fun thing to think about, is how there was no 3D before college, and now everything's 3D all the time, right? And so we all did get trained in a 2D world, and we got trained in you imagine and you create the design in your head in 3D, and then you slice it up into these drawings that you would produce so they could build the real 3D thing. Now we build the 3D thing and we slice it up into 2D things so that they can build the 3D thing, right? It's an interesting process that we've gone through.
How many of you, when you're creating graphics, still sort of, even though you're probably using, the digital form of it, kind of mentally harken yourself back to the graphics you created when you were doing them by hand with the Pantone, the zip tone stuff.
Zipatone, yeah, totally. I was thinking about that a few minutes ago. I was thinking about how we used to cut out.
Yeah.
We had our X-Actos, and we would cut out the 50% shading thing, and we would very precisely, and then you would put it on your drawings and rub it onto your drawings to do anything with any kind of shading or poche.
Yeah.
Even the lettering, right? We would do the same thing with lettering.
The transfer letters, the hatching, the gradients, the color, it was just, it was such an art to that.
Look up Zipatone, kids. I mean, that was a cool thing. There's got to be some some good YouTube videos of that in action.
It's got. I mean, one hopes that like you could probably. I mean, I doubt that they still make it, but it was such fun. I mean, now
it was because it was super hands-on.
Oh
right?
yeah,
it was. It was, and there was a lot of art to it, and that's really when you learned. And I think, you asked do you think back to it? I think so. I think there's good and bad with that too, right? I think like nowadays, do graphics really matter if we are headed toward model-based delivery?
Well, it's good.
They matter to
it's
some
a very
people.
Good question. So they matter to some people. I think earlier in the process. I don't think that a contractor necessarily would care about that. I don't think that engineers really care about any of that kind of stuff. But I think when you're trying to sell the look and the feel of the project to the client, and and so you are really trying to make the jazzy pictures where you get is
well, yeah, I would say now graphics matter in 3D way more than they matter in 2D. But I know I just shoved a knife into the side of all the old architects listening because the answer is of course graphics matter because that's the legibility of a drawing. But I think we're going away from drawings, and that's and I'm not trying to stay stuck on the way that we've always done things by thinking this way. I'm trying to say what is going to matter in the future. Because graphics really mattered when in the profession of architecture that we've come along in. Mm-hmm. They really matter. An office will hang its hat on the graphics of their drawing set because that is, and you'll still hear it today, a contractor will see something that is well represented graphically, and they'll be like, this is an amazing set of documents. Yes. They will comment on it, on how beautiful they are and how easy they are to read and understand. And that's really where all that comes from, is creating a graphic language that becomes easy for the intended audience to read it. But I think that's going away. And I don't know that that's good or bad. It just is, because we see it nowadays with students where you're just modeling. You're not drawing, right? And when you model things, the computer is doing the cuts for you, and it is applying the thicker line thickness to the cuts, hopefully, not always. and people don't even know why it's doing that, right? Coming out of school nowadays. At least I don't think they do.
Well, I'll say this, that, there is got to be a time sooner rather than later, that we need to pick a side, whether it's, a full model-based delivery process or something that's graphical, because current project under construction right now is a good example of kind of a hybrid delivery process, where we sat on the job site on Thursday sketching on a wall next to a condition that they didn't follow the drawings. And if they would have looked at the model showed us basically coming through the middle third of a beam with some fire protection, so that we can keep everything tight. Well, they looked at the drawings and they saw the path of this particular sprinkler main, and they went under the beam. Well, that basically put the fire protection underneath, below our ceiling and below a soffit, because it was this featured stair and it was coming into it and all this other stuff. And so we basically had to sit there and, which was awesome, default back to pulling out a carpenter pencil on a big sheet of plywood that was sitting next to the condition that we were looking at. And we sat there and we sketched out what the solution would be to basically kind of fix what the misread of the contract documents was. So, there's a little, there's a little bit of like, I don't know if we're ever going to need to get fully away from, or to at least 2D drawing, if it's a way to sit there and communicate our ideas on site.
Totally agree. And the speed at which you can do so.
Oh, yeah. It was funny is that
I think that's something that's also lost on the newer generations, is the speed at which drawing by hand really does communicate ideas. You could do 5 in the time it could take to do 1 on the computer.
Yeah.
And you can do it anywhere. You can do it on a marker board. You can do it on a receipt. You can do it on a napkin. You can do it in a sketchbook. It doesn't matter.
Did it on a piece of installed sheetrock that was on the wall, and we had moved some windows up because we changed the thickness of the door frames from a 1-inch to a 2-inch door frame. And because we had a transom over it, it elevated the door was 2 inches higher than the adjacent like clear story windows, because everything was changed to a 2-inch frame, but we only changed the elevation of the doors, we didn't change the elevation of the windows. And so when we changed the elevation of the windows, there was some acoustic wall panels that were already fabricated. They were ultimately ended up being 4 inches too short between the frames and the little gap in the wall and the frame moving and all this other stuff. So we were sitting there and I was like, well, what do we need to do? And so I sketched on the wall in at 1:1, which was I even impressed myself because I literally drew to the exact like dimension. Because he like pulled out his tape measure. He's like, "Holy crap! You really did draw it 4 inches by 1 inch by whatever."
Pretty good.
So I drew all this stuff out, and we took a photograph of what I drew on the wall, and they submitted it back. That sketch that I did on the wall, they submitted it back as just a conforming RFI that was the direction we were to go.
Yeah.
And we did that 4 times throughout. I did a modified 2-hour rated wall, because just the built conditions were a little bit off from what was drawn. And so we had to modify the 2-hour wall. And so like sketch it up, and then we sent it out to basically get an engineering judgment to make sure that what I had sketched up would work. And we got that, and but all of this stuff was like hand sketched right there on site.
Well, it's funny that you say this story, because I just want to throw a mental footnote out here for maybe a future thing. Because again, I don't want to maybe go here right now, but there is a big difference in the way our models and our drawings are being used now, where they are being followed too closely. Versus, and the reason I say that is because, like we said, back when we drew a small set by hand, you weren't drawing all this little stuff, and they would not have built the wall the way that they built it, because they would have thought about it, right? They would have thought about where the fire rating needs to go, instead of building it the way that they thought the model was showing, or the drawings, let's say the drawings from the model. They didn't look at the model, you said. And so I think, again, like just to kind of go back, and this is just informing my thesis, which is that I don't think an architectural model should be the one they build from. I think it should just provide intent and direction. And then I think, again, that somebody else should be doing that drafting or that modeling, whatever you want to call it, for the thing that actually gets built, because I don't think the value is there for architects. I don't think we're getting paid to think through all that stuff at that level. And even if we do, it shows that they don't follow it. Right? So again, like we kind of need to assess where the profession is at.
Yeah.
And make a decision about where we want it to go.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times we're just reacting to where they want it to go and what they're asking for. And we're putting this detail in, kind of assuming that they're asking for it. When the case is they're usually not.
Yeah, let's definitely save that for
later,
because that is a whole can of worms that I would love to get into.
So is there any other like huge shifts in or not even huge, but just big shifts in the profession that you guys have seen? Like when I started at HMC, I spent a lot of my time in the blueprint room, actually feeding the paper.
Oh my God, yes.
And breathing the ammonia from that machine, making copies of drawings. And it wasn't blueprints, right? It was blue lines.
Yeah, I swear.
There's a difference.
I swear that I spent a good full summer, like 8 hours a day,
in ammonia infused.
Clad.
Yep.
Smelled horrible on my way home. Rolled the windows down so hopefully it would like air me out, because it was just it was bad. And God, did I have such a headache.
That's terrible.
For weeks. I think I had I swore I was like growing a tumor from, just like how bad of a headache I would have like all the time. And then it got to the point where I was doing it so much that the headache stopped, and that worried me as well. But so because that same firm in Montgomery, Alabama, when we were switching from hand drafting to computer, and we were starting to move away from all of the mechanical stuff, we had all of these drawings that they wanted to archive because some of the drawings were falling apart. I mean, this was a pretty old firm, and back in the 90s, they were like around 70 years old. I mean, they still exist today, but I mean, so they had been around for quite a while. And so they had all of these drawings, and some of them were in kind of rough shape. And so they wanted to, this was, again, before scanning. So, their answer to preserving these drawings was basically making archived blue line sets. And so that's what I was doing, is archiving all of the sets in blue line. Yeah, I wish I still had them, but I did make a couple of prints of some of the work that they had done over the years that were just so beautifully drawn. And that was another thing, the artistry of a hand-line drawing versus, like the almost like mechanical coldness of a model or, something that was drafted in AutoCAD is just, there was just something so beautiful about a hand-drafted set of documents.
Yeah.
I mean, frameable artwork, in my opinion.
We actually had during our 75th anniversary for our firm, they had hung a bunch of drawings on the walls as like an installation from the original owners of HMC. And so I think it was Mr. Harnish's of the H of HMC's drawings, and just amazing, gorgeous. They were technical elevations of classical architectural buildings. I don't know if he did these drawings when he was in school or if he did them after that, but then colored with colored pencil, and just beautiful framed drawings. Like you just said, they were framed. They were of that caliber.
They were works of arts that I would love to line my house with. Some of these just absolute gorgeous, because there's a character to them that we just don't have anymore. So we'll throw on, hey, let's turn on the shadows so that, you get a little bit more like animation to your set of drawings, but you don't do a technical drawing with shadows and all this other stuff. But just, again, harkening back to our earlier part of the conversation when we were talking about the line weights and the way that you would hold a pencil, and, this would be a point, and this would be kind of like on the side of the lead, and all of this other stuff. And, Neil, you said like chiseling it, chiseling it out and stuff, and getting that really thick, fat character line was just so much. All right, now we're starting to, I'm crying right now. So...
Yeah, but it does come down to what the drawing communicates, right?
Yeah.
And so you do turn shadows on now to communicate depth, and you do profile something a little bit more to make it pop. And I think that comes from an understanding that is built through the history of what we've been through.
Yeah, yeah.
So then the shift went from CAD to BIM. That's definitely something that has happened over the course of our professions.
Yeah, and I think, real quick, I'd like to save this for a later conversation, but with the shift of, from the shift from pencil to CAD to BIM, there's a progression in the way we construct as well. Because there's a direct translation to the way builders are building now that affords us to be able to, the things that we considered avant-garde and, very risky back in the day are very commonplace now, because now we can, almost fabricate that stuff to like paper thin, cantilevers and stuff like that. Whereas
you can actually do like an analysis. And,
right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
Because like when Frank Lloyd Wright was doing his stuff and he was doing these like paper thin things, he was testing it out. Nobody had ever done it before. So,
well, yeah, you're relying on like some structural engineering matrix of numbers, right? Where it was like, these are the span tables and these are the depth tables and and they would go by that. And it's like, man, I hope this is right. And in many cases they're sagging, right?
Yeah.
Over time. They probably didn't sag for a while, but now they are. Mm-hmm. And now you can do the modeling and analysis, and you can do some crazy stuff with this to make sure that it actually is going to work, and not actually have to be guessing and hoping.
Right.
Hope is not a plan, right? It's so we're running short on time. I know, Neil, you got to run. So do you guys have anything else that you want to add to the history? I was just thinking about the shift to BIM as a worthy of talking about, just because, again, there's good and bad, right?
Yeah.
We went from, like you said, we went from drawing with pencil and pen to drawing on computer, which is the same thing as drawing with pencil and pen, just on the computer.
It's a different medium.
And now I think that BIM is even an evolution of that, which is not a good thing, which is 3D drafting now for a lot of people. I mean, that's really all it is, and they're not taking it to the full potential that it could be.
Right.
And so, yeah, you could call any program that does something in 3D BIM, but it's not real BIM,
right,
unless you actually are infusing the data in a consistent manner into your models that becomes useful later. And I think that's probably one of the biggest struggles of firms is investing in the future potential of the data that goes into BIM, seeing the value now to be able to do that and use it later. And so I think that's where maybe one of the next big shifts is people realizing, like, oh crap, we've been selling ourselves short for a long time by just producing 3D models of buildings that then get represented in 2D so that they can get built, when in fact we've had the opportunity to inject the data into the models for a very long time, and we just don't. So we really are doing 3D drafting now, which is just an evolution of 2D drafting, which is in CAD, which is just an evolution of 2D drafting on paper. And so I think that this is something that we're going to witness as a larger shift is the use of data. And I mean, there's lots of firms who are doing that, so I don't want to sell anybody short, but the majority are not. And I think that's something that a lot of firms are struggling with.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Other than that, like, our physical spaces really haven't changed much, would you guys say?
No, not really. I mean,
the office itself. I mean, maybe the cubes have changed.
Yeah.
But in a lot of cases, again, those haven't.
I think, and if you look at, like, the architectural spaces, like the actual architectural offices, let's just go from, like, the early 1900s to now. We've always actually almost believed in and were pioneers of the open office concept, because it was about the communication between people about that were developing details and drawings and drafting and all of that other stuff. And so we were always, kind of the open office. I mean, you look at the picture that everybody, always puts out there of the meme that says, the office before CAD, and you've got all these, like, dudes, like, laying across tables or with paper stretched out on the floor and all this other stuff. So we've always been an open office, and I other than the few, like, partners and all this other stuff that have, like, the closed office, we've always been in a bullpen type situation. Much
to the chagrin of the introverts of the world, but
exactly. But that's what headphones are for.
I will zero in on something you just said. You just said a bunch of dudes, and I think that is absolutely a big thing that's changed, right? So, and I've heard stories about the offices of before us for sure, but a bunch of dudes, a bunch of white dudes, right?
Yeah,
that was it. I mean, and so there has been, and many will say, not a big enough shift here, but I mean, this is definitely something that we've seen change. Is just the types of people, I don't know what the right way to say it is, but, like, there are way more women, there are way more minorities, but there are not. It does not represent society at large.
It's not there yet, and it's getting there. And my contention has always been that equity is going to be the only thing that, in my personal view, saves architecture, because architecture has been a dwindling profession for a while because unaccessible. People think that we're arrogant and all this other stuff. People don't see themselves in, the people who are trying to create their vision and stuff like that. And so there's a whole sector of people who are building things that have turned to builders or turned to, developers to deal with architects and all that other stuff because people don't feel like they're accessible. And I think that having, more women and more minorities or to balance out this profession is the only thing that's really going to save this profession. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. I think that has been a big shift. I mean, our office definitely it's been way better in the last 10 years, let's just say. I know that there's a huge battle still being waged out there because of the need for this, but and Equity by Design is a huge champion of this, and as are many other, the Architecture Lobby and Young Architects Forum, and all. It's definitely becoming more and more of a thing that people even just talk about out loud and understand the need in our profession. But it has been a big shift away from a bunch of white guys smoking in the office.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that smoking and drinking, and that's not an acceptable workplace anymore. Just an office full of
drinking's not
old white dudes isn't an acceptable workplace anymore. And so I think that these are all changes for the better. So,
I love bringing my daughter.
About.
I love bringing my daughter into our office because, she can see professional women in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
At not just one here, one there. I mean, we have 100 and some odd people in our Baltimore office, and I don't know the ratio, but I feel like it is very much at least 50% women in our office, and I absolutely love that, and I love the opportunity to bring her in, even if she's not considering architecture, just being able to see professional women in the workplace as an example of what she can do in the future. So I absolutely love that, like our office can be a champion of showing her that there's more for her to do in this world.
Cool. You guys got anything else that you want to bring up before Neil runs?
Where are you running to, Neil?
Nowhere today.
You're not running?
No. Tomorrow's the big day. 23 miles.
Sweet.
Why are you running 23 miles? What are you trying to catch? Because it
makes it easier to run 26.2 if you train for it.
Is there like an ice cream truck you're trying to chase or something?
No, just can I do it? Can you do something? Can you achieve something?
Well, you've done it once, right?
6 times.
Okay,
just once.
So why do you got to keep doing it?
Can I do it again?
Oh man!
All right,
it's awesome.
I love
it's
it.
A challenge, right? Why do you get up in the morning? You do it again
to chase the ice cream truck.
I was going to say, I thought you got up in the morning so that you could get a cup of coffee.
You know I don't drink coffee.
All right. Should we call it a wrap?
Let's wrap it.
That's a wrap.
Because we also have to record the ad.
Are you the BIM jockey for your firm? Are you used to the grind of using broad search engines or searching manufacturer sites only to find they don't have BIM?
Are you wrestling with outdated or poorly built objects? It's time to use arcat.com. Arcat is a free library of over 7,500 BIM objects and systems, all available in multiple formats.
Even better, each object is high-quality BIM based on actual manufactured products. You don't even have to register to access Arcat's BIM library. Just head over to arcat.com. That's ARCAT.com and start downloading the BIM objects you need.
And thanks to Arcat for sponsoring this episode of Archispeak.
Thank you.
I'm up for doing an after show. I got shit to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready to settle in here?
Yes.
All right.
Captain Knuckles.
All right, so the other day, I took repossession, I guess you might say.
Possession of a repossession?
Yeah.
Of what?
I took repossession of my project car.
Oh.
Oh,
I
I
guess
saw
it's
a picture of that.
I guess it's possession because it's not a repossession.
It hasn't been
Possession.
repossessed.
Yes. It is a...
Oh, I hope you've paid it off by now.
So the funny thing about this is, this car has been a project car for longer than we've had this show. By a few years, actually.
Hasn't it been going on for 10?
Let's not focus on this, shall we? 11 years and, I don't know, 8 days, something like that.
Oh, it's down to days, too.
Well, what's funny was it was almost exactly 11 years since I sent the car off. Okay. So I have a photo of sending the car off. March, what was it? I'd have to look it up. But anyway, just a little over 11 years ago, end of March. And I got a phone call the other day. Hey, you won't believe this. Car's ready. And so I had to go pick it up. I had to clear out a space in the garage to park it. But anyway,
ready means finished.
Well,
or
you know how we like to use the air quotes around here?
Yes.
Yeah, drivable. Let's just call it that.
Okay.
But I thought it'd be fun to talk about cars for a little bit because I'm totally a car person. And I know you guys, I know Cormac you are, and I know Neil, you have a certain nostalgia for a certain automobile.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought it might be kind of fun to talk about that. Why don't we start with you, Neil? What is your... I'm going to pretend this is Ask Archispeak, okay? And I'm going to pretend to be a listener. Yeah, what's up?
Let me put on my thinking cap. I know exactly what kind he likes.
Yeah, I know we do. I think it's come up
AMC
before.
Pacer.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
No.
So...
Seriously?
Vintage. It's Neil's vintage.
Come on, man. You don't like the
remember
bubble?
what that... I got to remember what that car even looked like.
What?
AMC Pacer? I do remember
bubble.
that.
Wayne's World.
Oh, yes. I remember that car. You know, my mom almost bought one of those. Instead, she bought...
On purpose?
Well, no. She was looking to buy a small car or something. I don't remember. It was like mid-'70s or late 80s.
I think people were only given these cars. Nobody bought them.
Well, I don't remember the details.
They were only given them when their Pintos broke down.
or a Gremlin, maybe.
Or the Gremlin.
It is the Pontiac Aztec of olden days.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, this is bad news. But, So
Neil,
wow,
you
I found a
start.
Ranchero version of an AMC Pacer online. Wow, this is awesome.
A Ranchero version. See, not only should you have been beaten for having just the Pacer in general, but then a Ranchero version.
Oh, and then he's got side pipes on this one too. Right, there's several of these.
Highly customizable.
According to CBS News, it is the 8th. It's ranked 8th
worst car
of the 15 ugliest cars.
That makes sense.
Really?
Oh,
only 8?
Well, it apparently beat out the Aztec and the Gremlin.
Not delivered.
All right. Before we go too far down the internet rabbit hole, turn off your internet, and let's talk about our cars. All right. So Neil,
well, I don't own my car anymore.
Okay,
so
but you have
that's not fair.
You have a very
You're gonna make me feel horrible here.
You you have a particular nostalgia for a particular automobile, which is...
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's born of a love of that particular vehicle or just that when I was looking to buy a vehicle, I had to buy an old vehicle, right? So something I could afford. And I went to work one day. I used to work at this hardware store in town, and went to work one day, and there was this nice blue. I probably didn't even know what kind of a car it was. Maybe I did. I don't remember. But saw it out there and ended up buying it, and it was a 66 GT Mustang. So, and then over the years that I had it for about 20 years, no, 15, 16, 17 years or something, I forget. And, over the years, I did everything to that car. I, went forwards and backwards, and I knew everything about it and decoded all the VIN numbers, and I knew where it came from, everything about, just knew even to this day, I can see one of these early model Mustangs, and I can tell the difference between a 64 and a half, a 65 and a 66 just by looking for a few clues. And I don't know my 67s and 68s as well, but definitely those first 2.5 model years.
They're sweet.
I know pretty well.
My dad had a 68 fastback. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. With
nice.
A 351 Windsor. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Good old 351 Windsor.
My
not a 351 Cleveland. That was a different motor.
Yeah.
My drafting teacher, who was also the power and mechanics teacher and all that other stuff in high school, he had the 67 fastback, coupe, and convertible.
Whoa.
Nice.
Just depends on the day, huh?
Well, so
Depends on the weather.
he used those as the project cars for the school to basically, how schools used to have like auto shop and auto body and all that other stuff.
Yep.
Well, those were his cars that he would bring in and let us work on them. So it's kind of funny is he got away with basically restoring his cars for free because the school paid for all the materials.
Right.
Using child labor.
Oh,
well,
it's for the good of the children.
The family history of I'll say on my wife's side of the family on the Mustang, right, Neil? I told you that before. That my wife's grandfather worked on the design team of the original Mustang.
That's right. I do remember that.
He was presented the first plaque, which had like the little Mustang logo on it from Lee Iacocca, who was the head of that program.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's super cool.
It's funny as I can, like, you can tell the difference between the variety of Mustangs, of early Mustangs. I can do that with Camaros and Corvettes. That was the General Motors side of things.
So when we lived up in
that.
Northern California when I was a little kid, I was first grade, 6 years old, and I knew every car on the road. Like my dad would just say, "What's that?" and I would tell him, and we didn't know how I knew, but I knew. And I mean it comes from him, right? But it was one of those things where he would have a friend in the car and he would just start saying, "Hey Evan, what's that?" And then I would say what it was, and it was kind of a little inside joke with it was like, how's that little kid know all that? And
did you ever?
Right.
I just did.
Did you ever play the game of trying to determine what kind of car it was from the headlights at night?
Yes.
Well, I've done that a lot.
I can still do that.
You can't do that anymore.
Not anymore.
It's a little harder, but
yeah.
It's a little harder, but I can maybe I can't recognize all the cars, but I still, when I look up in my rearview mirror at night and I think in my head, what model, what car is that?
What model cop car is pulling me over?
1979 Ford LT wagon, Wagon Queen family truckster. Yeah.
Yeah. Here, let's see if you can see this. See if that comes through. Check your messages.
Yes, what you just sent me.
Yep, there it is. All right, there's Neil's car. Everybody who's
that was
listening,
my car.
We get to see what Neil's car looked like.
Yeah. Here, there's a shot from the. Let's see.
Was that yours? Is this yours, or are you just pulling these off?
That's mine.
Oh, okay.
No, that's mine.
Nice.
That was mine. Look, it even has the Cal Poly architecture sticker in the back window.
So I've heard you say that you would do just about, like, this is the car. You want to find this exact car and own it again.
I wish I could. Yeah.
Now,
if anybody knows how to. I still know the VIN number.
How to track it down.
Somebody knows how to track it down. I know the guy I sold it to, but I can't find him.
That was in pretty nice shape, Neil.
It wasn't.
So
nice shape.
why'd you
Don't
get rid
look
of
too
it?
closely, though.
What? Yeah, that's how it is with old cars.
How much Bondo?
No Bondo. It was just
Clean.
the paint started chipping, along in the very front,
It's old.
but,
It's called a patina.
and, but no, actually it was in very good shape. I mean, overall, it was a nice car. Very low miles, 4-speed.
So how many
air
cars have you had,
conditioning.
Neil?
I have not had a lot of cars, to be honest.
I know,
with
that's
you.
why I'm asking.
So let's see. Okay, see, how many have I personally owned? Well, let's see.
Yeah.
I think so. Let's see. Well, okay. So I had my mom's 76 Honda Civic. That was my first car.
76.
76
That's a
Civic. That was
tiny
the
car.
choice. Got either that or the Pacer, and she got the Honda. So thankfully
Good
that
choice.
worked out better.
Sweet.
It's a good choice. Let's see. So I had a 76
Was
Honda
it-
Civic.
Yeah, but a lot of people had a Honda Civic. Not many people had a Pacer. So I kind of go back and forth on that.
But
choice.
76? Not a lot of 76 Honda Civics running around out there. Maybe
Not a
back
lot
in
of
the 80s
Pacers
when I
at
drove
all
it.
running around.
Well,
out there.
that's true. Yeah, no Pacers. Let's see. I went from that. Then I bought the Mustang. I owned that. While I owned that, I had a 1990 Hyundai Excel, which I bought off of a friend of mine. So when I got back out of college and came back to the United States, I needed something to daily drive instead of my Mustang. And
And so you got it. You got a Hyundai in its heyday.
Yeah.
I did. Well, I'll tell you why. Because a friend of mine, his soon-to-be wife, I think it was, but anyway, they needed to get out of the payment on the car, and they only owed a few $1,000s on it. So he basically made me a deal. He says, "Here, you pay it off. You pay off the car, and you can have it." So I was like, "Wow." A 3-year-old car. I bought it. It was a 1990. I bought it in 93. It was a 3-year-old car. It had 24,000 miles on it. And basically I paid $3,000 for it.
No
Or
excuse.
something like that. So, for me, just out of college, $3,000 is basically a brand new car, which, I just needed a beater car to run back and forth to work in. It was a hell of a deal.
Couldn't
And
ask for a better beater.
Exactly. And I drove that thing till I think it was about 100,000 miles. And a friend of mine is a mechanic, and I took it to him to get it smogged, and they stopped the smog test or threw it into testing mode before it automatically reported me as a gross polluter. And here in California, I mean, the car was actually running fine. It was just the emissions it needed probably a couple $1,000s worth of work to get it running again. I'm like, okay, this set 8-9-year-old Hyundai Excel is just not worth the money. So I traded it in and bought a brand new 98, what was that? That was a Golf GTI. So let's see, I had the Honda, the Mustang, the Hyundai, the Golf GTI. So far I'm up to 4. And
It's just
then
called
I had the
GTI,
Golf
man.
GTI.
It's not a Golf GTI. You either had the
I know,
Golf
it was-
or the
yeah.
GTI. Come on.
Okay, I had the GTI.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
And
the
it was the
Rabbit.
2-door GTI. And then, it wasn't the Rabbit. They didn't use that name then. And then I bought my Infiniti G35
Which you
after
still
that.
drive
So
today.
I've had 5. That's the car I drive today. Yeah, 14. Actually, you know what? Today's, as we record this, is April 9th. Today is my car's birthday. I picked it up on April 9th, 14 years ago today.
Wow.
Happy birthday, car.
Happy birthday, car. Yeah. So I've had 5 cars over that
5
time
cars.
in my life. Yeah, I've owned 5 cars. That's it.
Evan, how long of a show do we have for yours?
Yeah, I don't think you can go through all the cars you've owned.
Yeah, we won't. Why don't you go, Cormac?
Oh, mine.
He's still counting.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to list through everything. You just hit the highlight reel.
Well, mine's quick. 72 Volkswagen Bug.
Nice,
I actually wrote them down so I could burn through them.
dude. I've got a
spreadsheet.
spreadsheet. Just so you know.
Holy shit! What?
So Neil, his list is long. He needs a spreadsheet.
Oh my!
Well, you got to
goodness.
remember it
All right.
somehow.
83 Honda Accord hatchback. Then when I got back to the States, because the 83 Accord was what I owned in Germany, and I couldn't bring it back with me, so I had to sell it there. '82 Chevy Cavalier, four-door version.
Yep. It's kind of was it the wagon version or the
no?
the
It was the
sedan?
four-door.
Okay.
The four-door sedan.
Nice.
But
I
that one
remember the
didn't last.
hubcaps on those cars distinctly.
Yeah, that one didn't last very long. So I got I bought my dad's
No surprise there.
'82 Pontiac J2000.
Oh my gosh.
Basically, it's the same vehicle. It was the Sunbird, but it was the model year before they adopted the name Sunbird. The absolute best, and if I could have this car again, I'm probably going to get one sometime in my life. The love of my life.
If you can handle
come
the
on,
repairs.
spill it.
The love of my life.
Oh, is this the car I think it is?
What is it?
The Triumph.
Yeah, that's right.
Ah!
The 1980 Triumph TR7. I
Nice.
absolutely loved
I
that thing.
remembered that. Yes.
What a crappy car.
Yeah.
But
What was
I
to
loved
love?
everything.
Hey,
Everything.
so Cormac, I don't know if I told you this. My mom owned a Triumph TR4.
TR4s were good.
TR4, and
Yours was three better, though.
I was in the passenger seat as a kid when we got T-boned and it got totaled.
Yep.
So
Little
that was
cars.
the end of the TR4.
TR4s were a good car, although I don't know if I'd want to be T-boned in a TR4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't a pleasant experience.
It's a
Fortunately, nobody
small
was
damn
hurt.
Car.
Yes.
I used to have a buddy who bought a TR6, didn't know anything about vehicles, didn't know how to fix vehicles, probably couldn't even fill up the air in a tire. And for some reason bought a TR6. And I used to work on his car all the time and then drive it around. I do know that I can beat a mid 90s Camaro with it, which
'Cause you
probably
did?
wasn't saying much because I did often.
But you don't have a stellar list of cars here, Cormac.
Oh no. 1974 Austin Healey Sprite.
Nice.
Oh,
Not
okay. now
even
we're
a
getting
bug eye
better.
Sprite.
Not
Just
even.
the Sprite.
Just the Sprite.
But that was more of a project car that never got to project. That would have been one of your 11-year, 8-month or 8-day cars. 93 Chevy Blazer, the S10 version.
Yep.
Oh,
Nice. Two-door?
sticking to the
that thing.
GM side
Four-door.
of things, aren't you?
Four-door. Okay.
4-door. I did love that. A 97, not my choice. Probably wouldn't have bought it, but my soon-to-be wife's father sold it to us, so I had to get a Ford Thunderbird GT. The last model year of the big
Yeah.
Thunderbird before they went to the retro versions.
Two-door?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
they
Two-door-
were all two doors.
That's a big
Two-door-
lead sled, man.
2-door V8.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
It was
remember that.
It was a decent car. It's just I wouldn't
Giant doors on those.
giant
Wingspan.
doors. And I'll tell you what, if don't you gotta go and you've got to be the one who parks way off in the distance, and so
Oh,
that you
yeah.
can open it up. But of course, you park all the way out in BFE,
Someone will park next to you.
and somebody parks right next to you,
Yeah.
and you're like, really?
You got to prove the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
95 Dodge Caravan.
Ooh.
Grand Caravan.
Oh,
It was
classy.
grand. Not only was it grand,
Fake
but it
wood
was
paneling.
purple.
Oh, nice.
Purple.
Did it have the wood
was
paneling stickers on the sides?
No.
No.
it wasn't.
You
It
missed out
It was
there.
it was the round version, the rounder version. Let's see, Mazda 626.
This is starting to make me sad.
Mazda 626, an Isuzu Rodeo, a Mercedes E320 wagon, and then my current
Oh,
stable.
I remember that car.
Yeah, and then my current
With
stable
the
of
broken
vehicles.
window. Passenger window wouldn't roll up, remember?
Rear passenger window.
Oh, was it? The rear? All right, whatever.
Yes.
I replaced the motor on mine. I had the same car. The rear window motor, that is.
Yeah, you did have the same. I think you had the same year too. Was it the 2000?
99.
99.
Yep.
Okay. You know what? Was it by 99? I can't remember.
Close enough.
It might have been 99.
I think we had them about the same time too.
Yeah. And then my current stable of vehicles, the soon-to-be recipient of 2 brand new catalytic converters.
But still going strong.
But still going strong. Practically anybody who comes and visits me over here has ridden in it one way, shape, or form. Saturn Outlook. Yes, nice. Saturn, damn it. Saturn, all of you.
Outlook? What does that look like?
All the millennials listening are like, what?
A Saturn Outlook is the exact same thing.
Is it a car company?
It's the exact same thing as the GMC Acadia.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's just the affordable version that you can get fully loaded and still not pay the base price of an Acadia.
Wow. Yeah, you're sticking with that
just
story
saying.
Too, aren't you?
Just saying.
Just saying. I have everything.
It makes him feel better every time he says that.
I know.
I mean, I still drive a friggin' Saturn. Come on.
Yeah.
A Saturn.
Saturn. Kids listening to this aren't even going to know what a Saturn is.
Nope.
They're going to say that planet?
So
there's
Toyota
rings
Avalon
around it
that you guys have all ridden in.
See, that's what I thought you were talking about when you were talking about the catalytic converters.
No,
I don't think I've ridden in the Avalon.
Yeah,
you have.
Yeah, when
in
we
Atlanta.
we went to Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta!
You drove that thing all the way to Atlanta.
I was thinking of Washington.
They still haven't fixed the shocks.
Atlanta. That's right. Oh yeah, that thing's a boat.
It was like, man, you need new shocks in this. And how many years ago was that?
So
that's like
same
4 years ago.
4. It was longer than that.
Same shocks.
No,
oh my god!
I think
Same
it was
shocks.
4 years ago.
Well, same things that hold the place of shocks.
Yeah.
In their
Same
position,
tubular
but
structures.
they're not shocks anymore. They're shook.
They're shot.
And then last but not least, the current vehicle in our stable that
You have a stable.
Yes, is our 2016 Mazda 3.
Nice. Riding in luxury.
I've got a car in this decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing better than me.
Oh my god.
2015.
So if you had to pick the best
Yeah, it was
one,
4
are you
years
going
ago.
with you're going with the Triumph? That seemed to be the one you had the most good feelings about.
That's the one that I have good memories on. I have pushed that thing from sea to shiny sea.
With your bare hands.
With my bare hands. I have
So
caught fire in that car.
how many times did it break down?
Oh, pff.
Can't even count.
I think the
the
question would be easier for you to have asked how many days did it actually run consecutively.
Oh,
And this is a
I
car
gotta
you want
send
another
you
one
this.
of?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh man.
I will say this. Here's like this weird little dream I have right now. So the Toyota Avalon has got an absolute brilliant V6 engine in it. And it is a strong engine and it still runs great even to this day. However, I don't really need it anymore. I mean, we've got the Outlook, we've got the Mazda, and we're fine with those vehicles, and the kids seem to never want them. Understandable, because it doesn't have any shocks. I would love to transplant that engine into a new TR7. So I would have the power plant of a... Now, they were originally built to have a Rover V8, which is basically a Buick 305. And they were originally built for that and has a drivetrain and everything else for a V8, but the 1980 version, the TR7, that's why it's called a TR7, not a TR8, was the company was on strike and they lost the I guess
contract.
They lost their the vendor basically couldn't build any of the engines because they were on strike too, and so they never got any of their V8s. So they pulled out this interesting, is probably the only way you can explain it.
The nicest way to say it.
It was called the Dolomite Incline 4. So if you guys can picture it, it's a V8 sliced right down the middle so that you have a 4-cylinder, but it's what would normally be a straight 4, but it's slanted in the bay.
Interesting.
It was weird. It was absolutely weird with the worst carburetors that you could possibly imagine, because whoever thought that a oil piston single barrel side draft carburetor from Zenith Stromberg, thank you Zenith Stromberg, whoever you people are, so they'd had 2 of them. So rather than putting a double barrel engine together,
you could never balance those, I bet.
You could never, they were never in sync. And if they were out of sync, then it threw time.
Yep.
And so you needed to travel with a timing gun. You need to travel with, pretty much an entire toolkit.
There's a lot of people listening who have no clue what you're talking about. But
what's a toolkit?
What are carburetors?
All right, so Cormac,
I will say,
check your messages. You got to see this TR40 conversion.
TR40 because it's supposed to be a Ferrari F40.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw those.
That thing looks like a toy. That's hilarious.
Somewhat ridiculous.
All right. Well, I'm not going to go through everything.
You have offended me.
But
so yours, you were up to what? Neil, 5.
5. Yeah.
Did you count yours, Cormac?
He's counting.
15.
Now.
15.
So I'm 15.
15. Holy moly.
Well, forget the holy moly. I want to hear what you have to say about your number. Just throw the number out first.
Me?
And then hit highlights, since you're not going to go through all of them.
Just bought number 28.
Oh.
And I'm not stopping anytime soon.
Wow.
Let's just
cars.
call them vehicles. They're not all cars. There's one scooter, one moped, or not a moped, a motorcycle, and one trailer on there. But everything else is.
I had a dirt bike at one point. Does that count?
Automobile. So I've used all of these for like just normal stuff, normal driving around town.
Wow,
So
you must buy a lot of crappy cars then.
Now, is the vehicle that I drove in the Army that I had assigned to me for 4 years, is that considered mine?
No, that's my car. I own that.
Oh, man.
I could add that to my list. I paid for it.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll hit the highlights.
Yeah.
So my first hand-me-down car, as like your Avalon is going to be maybe for one of your kids, was a 1982 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme Brougham diesel.
Not the Brougham.
That thing was like Lazy Boys on wheels, okay?
Oh, yeah.
It had enormous doors like your Thunderbird as well. Giant 2-door car. So I still see those around. What was the name
of that again?
I still see them driving around, but not the diesels. I mean, I would leave a stoplight in a cloud of smoke for the people behind me.
Well, that was your spy kit, right?
Yeah.
Smoke screen.
Spy Hunter was in. Yeah, so this is the car that somehow got 30 miles to the gallon, and it was enormous, right? Because it was a diesel. So after that, I purchased my first car with my own money that I paid $500 for, 1978 Subaru wagon, which is basically the Subaru Brat, but the wagon style. Like the very first one. I don't know if you guys remember the Brat, but the Brat was a little car truck with rear-facing seats in the bed.
Yes, in the bed.
And they had these grips that you held onto, like ski grips. Because there were no seatbelts, right?
Oh yeah, there's a picture of it. Oh, there's a dude sitting in one right there.
But mine was the wagon.
Oh yeah,
version.
there's the handles. He's holding onto the handles.
Yes.
Holy crap! Are you serious?
Well, that's what they were called. Holy crap handles.
Yeah. Well, I had the wagon version. It had the bash guard on the front and everything. It was awesome.
I mean, how did they get away with doing that vehicle?
Yeah, really. Because people didn't care about safety.
AMT made a frickin' model of it.
Hey, what's funny is that, we would do
hilarious.
that, pretty much just put a couple of lawn chairs in the back of, your buddy's pickup truck or something like that.
Just
anyway,
see how long you could stay seated.
Exactly.
Yeah. We've gone off jumps sitting in the back of trucks before. That's not a pretty sight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was a 4-wheel drive car. I mean,
Yeah.
one of many.
All-wheel drive.
And this was
this is-
4-wheel drive. This was not
But
an all-wheel drive car. This was, you shifted it into 4-wheel drive, just like you did with your Toyota truck back then or whatever.
Okay.
And
All right.
I've been to the top of many mountains with that car. It was fun. That's the car I learned how to rebuild engines and had flames shooting out of the carburetor and all kinds of cool stuff.
Oh my God! Here's one painted like the General Lee.
Mine was like oxidized brown. It was terrible. It was the worst thing ever. But that was my first car. That was the car I drove in high school. It was not
you
my
poor thing.
not my
Did you go to
pride and
prom
joy.
in that one?
Yeah.
No,
No,
you
I didn't.
Did you?
All right. So after that, I graduated to bigger vehicles, 4-wheel drives mostly. I got a 55 Willys wagon, which was pretty awesome, with a big Ford 302 V8. Yeah, that thing was a piece.
Did it have like paneling on the side or no?
It has the panels, but they're all metal. So but it had
okay.
discrete panels that were painted a different color on the side. Yeah.
Oh.
So I remember specifically about that car, that truck. It had the original leaf springs from 1955 on it, and so straight axles front and back. And the leaf springs were very small back in 1955, and they were 11 springs each. Okay, so 11 layers of steel.
Yeah.
And I'd go around a corner, and the car would stay leaning, whatever the opposite direction was that I had turned, and I would have to jerk it back to straighten it back out to like make it stand upright again. It was terrible.
Wow.
Yeah. So from there, I moved into Toyota territory with a couple of Land Cruisers. I had a FJ55 and an FJ40. And
Nice.
those were, I wish I would have kept those. The cool thing about the FJ55 was it was my grandfather's, and then it was my father's, and then it was mine. So there's a lot of history in that car. And that was a 74, and it had the power rear window, which was a super cool feature.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, there was a giant toggle switch on the dashboard, and you would push that thing down, and the rear window would go down
Man, that had some
automatically.
funny front end on that car.
It's really distinctive. Yeah.
It is very distinctive. Yeah.
But that was great. I loved those.
It's
Those
super
were
cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It was orange and white. So if you look it up, I mean, you got to look for the orange and white, the creamsicle, the 50/50.
I'm seeing
Yeah.
a red and cream color.
Yep. They did that
Maybe-
too.
well,
They did
maybe
green
that's
and
it.
white. They did red and white.
My,
orange
Oh,
and
there
white.
it is.
It's kind of
I
an
see
all
it.
white. Yeah.
My
The
wife's
creamsicle.
dad had
Nice.
the blue and white.
Yep. Blue and white. Very primary
I
colors
see a
back
blue
then for
one.
sure.
Oh yeah, there it is.
It's kind of like a powder blue.
All right, so I was commuting to Cal Poly at that time, and my Land Cruiser was getting 8 miles per gallon. So I traded
Nice.
it straight across
for
a 1985 Honda Civic, which is a
So
total
you got gas mileage.
total trade down. But man, the gas mileage was sweet. Yeah,
It was not not winning any beauty pageants
Boy.
with that thing, but
you
no,
went downhill.
it was
in a big
reliable.
way.
It was reliable, and it got good gas mileage. Yeah,
Was it at the hatchback?
it
no,
says the 1974 Toyota or Honda Civic owner.
76, and that was
Okay,
that was the hand me down, right? I didn't go buy that car. First car I ever bought with my own money was a '66 Mustang GT. So there's that.
So this Honda did break
that
down.
You didn't know what you were buying.
Yeah, well, yeah.
This Honda did break down one time on the 5 freeway in the middle of nowhere on the way to Tahoe in the middle of the night.
Nice.
That was fun. Water pump went out, and timing belt shredded and bent all the valves. It was pretty awesome. I got to hitchhike that night for the first time.
nice.
Got picked
Wow.
up by a guy in a scary panel van. It was pretty sweet.
And you lived to tell about it.
Did it say free candy on the side?
Was it a white van?
It was like different colors of primer. Yeah. All right. So so after that, first new car ever, a '95 Subaru Impreza wagon, and you'll let's see, this is wagon number 3 or 4 already. So definitely a wagon a wagon person. You'll as we go through here. Then I bought my first Datsun Roadster, which is how we started this whole after show off. And that's the car that we're alluding to, was that I finally got back after 11 years. So I bought a 66 project car and ended up not going through with that project. And I ended up getting rid of it. But the car that I just got back is a 69 Datsun Roadster. So it's a little two-seater convertible. This is pre-Z car for Datsun, like Datsun's first sports car, and you don't see them very often, but they're pretty awesome. I mean, there's not too many Japanese sports cars of that era. Honda had like the S800, and Mazda maybe had a car. Toyota didn't really have any sports cars back then, I don't think. Anyway, it's a super
Triumph
fun
did.
car. The MG, kind of came near the same time. Copied a lot of the Datsun Roadster. It's not nearly as reliable.
That's a nice looking car. I like that car.
Copied my.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just
you're holding it.
You're full of. I mean, I'm sorry. When was that your Datsun built?
Mine was a 69, but they came out in 64, 65.
Oh, so when the MGB was introduced in 1963, who was copying who?
All right.
Are you a British car owner besides a Triumph?
Yeah, I rebuilt several MGBs.
Nice.
Love them. Never owned one of my own, but rebuilt 3.
Is that stereo vertical, or is that just like a?
Yeah, it's vertical.
Oh, it is vertical.
I've replaced all that. So this car is a total mod.
Rest of mod.
I put a 96 2-liter Nissan engine in it, 5-speed tranny.
No V's. You should have put a V6 or something.
It's fuel injected. This is double the horsepower of what it came with. Like, believe me, this car is so tiny. It goes.
Oh my God.
It goes. It's pretty fun.
I'm wondering the size of that one versus like the size of my Austin Healey Sprite.
Yeah,
because
it's pretty
Sprites
close.
are tiny.
I think like a Bug-Eye Sprite is smaller. But
yeah, the Sprite and the Bug-Eyed Sprite are the same size. So the MG midgets.
Yeah.
It's the exact same body as the Austin Healey Sprite.
Okay.
It's the same car, just different badging.
Yeah, this is pretty small. Like you can easily touch the other side without leaning over. Yeah. 2-seater.
All right.
2-seater.
That's the high. That's the one you're ending on of the 28.
Yeah, there was a lot of other stuff in there. I had a Porsche 911 at one point, BMW 2002.
Oh, those are cool.
My son's buddy, he and his father have built one, so when he's legal to actually like drive his own car, he actually has a 2002 waiting for him.
Nice.
All souped up too.
That's a nice car.
It's exactly what you want to give a
yeah,
teenager.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Yeah, geez. Yeah, they're that's a good car. I mean, there's good visibility. It's a lot of glass,
Oh, it's a lot of glass.
It's a lot of glass. But yeah, all these cars, like you end up accumulating a lot of tools, fixing these things, and I mean that's kind of the fun of it too, is tearing into them.
Funny as Neil started off talking about his Mustang in opining about I had to buy something that I could afford and all this other stuff, and you did not talk about how much it cost you to keep that thing running.
Nothing.
And that's always what usually is nothing.
No,
you really spent nothing to keep it running.
When I bought it, it had 60,000 miles on it.
Wow.
It was 20 years old at that point. I bought it in 86. That car, I mean, I had to upkeep it. I spent money on it, sure, but most of the time it was, just not really fixing things. Nothing mechanically was really wrong with it. I did have some trouble with the carburetor towards the end. It had the original auto light carburetor, and I did replace that with like a Holley 600 or something at one point, just because it just worked. And so I just pulled the carburetor off, put the new one on, and connected it up. And I don't know, I'm probably forgetting a lot of the tuning and tune-ups, plugs and distributor caps and points and all that stuff. But
everybody spent money on those, though.
Yeah, but I mean, the car was pretty rock solid. I didn't have any problems with it.
Well,
it wasn't like an old beater broken down thing.
Because normal owners of, I mean, you have an old car, you usually spend money for it. So, you may be able to buy it cheap, but you don't own it cheap.
Yeah, true. I think the car that gave me the most heartburn and expense was that Mercedes E320 wagon. It just had tons of miles on it, and nothing is cheap to fix on that car. Nothing.
No.
Yeah.
New transmission on it. When I went out so, none of these cars, their emissions are insane. And so when you go out and you replace one catalytic converter, you're basically replacing the entire side.
Yep.
And that's $1,600.
Yep. I had to do that.
And then don't worry, because not too far after that, because you have now one very, respirated side and one kind of congested side, that you'll be changing that other $1,600 part,
right,
pretty soon. So that's when I said, I'll trade it in. Oh, wait, what should I trade it in on? Ah, yes, a Saturn. Because nothing could go wrong on that thing.
It was a good deal.
I'll buy the first model year of a vehicle that, prior to that, General Motors had never sold. Because, they work out all of the bugs before they sell it to you. Or they sell it to you and you work out all the bugs for them. Like a new transmission.
That's so funny.
Pending to catalytic converters.
Man.
Thankfully, I can do all this work myself. Because damned if I'm not going to.
So I've had the most Subarus, 4 Subarus, 3 Toyotas.
Funny enough, I've only had 2. I've had a handful of GMs, but none of them are, a Saturn.
I've had one,
Pontiac,
just the first,
Chevy.
just the Oldsmobile. Only.
I've had 2 Chevys, 2 Mazdas, and then everything else have been kind of like one-offs.
All right, well, that was it. I thought it would be fun to talk about that. I mean, I'm obviously like if I wasn't doing architecture, I would definitely consider a career in like resto modding old cars. I think that'd be so fun. Like just the whole fabrication, like the scale of it, the customizableness of cars is just something that is. Oh, yeah. It's always just been something I've loved about that. It's pretty fun hobby. So I would love to hear what our listeners have done, but we'll see if they chime in on this discussion.
Mark LePage.
That's right.
Yeah, Mark. I know Mark's got a nice car.
Talk about your Camaro. Because I love your car.
Yeah, it's a nice car.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, honestly, all right, so before we roll out of here, if you were able to buy one classic car.
Easy.
That you have not owned before.
Oh, it's a toss-up.
Ha!
I'll let you guys pick.
Can I go with a different model of the same car?
Different year?
Neil just can't get away.
I want a GT350.
G3
66 GT350.
You don't want a GT500?
I don't think they made those in 66.
Well, no,
has to be a 66.
Why it's got to be a 66, man?
Because that's just my favorite car. Actually, maybe they did make a 566. Maybe. I'm not totally up on that history there.
Yeah,
that
here's
came
the
a
problem.
little later,
I
but-
don't. There's too many to dream or drool about.
See, you laughed at me, but yeah, here you go.
The one car that I had always dreamed about, I don't think that I would ever really want to get it because it would look pretty, but I don't know how much I would actually drive it. And it's a 60 Corvette because I just love the 60 Corvette. But honestly, if I was going to get any one car, it would be a triple black 1969 Corvette 427 convertible. Just one bad mother. It is. I remember the first time I saw one of those, I was like, I really love this Corvette, or I really love that Corvette. And then I saw that, I'm like, forget all those Corvettes. Look at that thing. So what you got there, Evan?
So you want to hear the toss-up?
Which wagon would you like?
Yeah, no, it's actually not. They're both Roadster style. Okay, so first one is 1964 Shelby Cobra 289. And I say 289 because it's just a much more drivable car than the 427.
Yeah.
I just think it would be. It's kind of like, in the spirit of what I've got now, it's totally enough power, size to weight ratio. You know, it would be amazing. Now, I've always loved that body style. That it's just an amazing looking car. And I even love like the hardtop version of that car. You know, I think they raced those in Le Mans. I mean, it's just a cool thing. But the toss up for me really is a Porsche 550 Spider.
Yeah.
You know, the James Dean. There's just something so iconic about the 550 Spider that I've always loved. You know, rear engine, really light, really small, really nimble. There's just nothing to it. And that's really kind of what I'm modeling my Resto Mod after, as far as like equipping the car with nothing. like it's how minimal can you make it? I'm getting rid of all of the extra pieces and parts and switches and just cleaning it out and smoothing it and just really cleaning it up and making it as minimal as I can. And it really is the art of subtraction, because, you know, the more involved cars got over the years because of emissions and bumpers and reflectors and all this stuff, the more fussy they got, and the more it's just extraneous stuff. And so this is kind of an exercise in subtraction, and it's been kind of fun. But I always go back to that 550 and look at that and just think like it's really the essence of a sports car. And I kind of feel the same way about the old Shelby Cobra. So
yeah,
there you go. That's my picks.
Yeah.
I could never just pick one.
Shelby Customs.
Ooh, what?
Yeah, I mean,
well, the GT350 was a Shelby modification.
He knew what he was doing, didn't he?
He was a hack. I mean, let's be honest with you. I'd buy another 80 Triumph. Come on.
Just a glutton for punishment.
Yeah. I'll see you when you're pushing that down the highway.
We'll wave.
Yeah. Okay, so last thing. What's the fastest you've ever driven?
That's easy.
What, am I supposed to go first?
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Not that fast. I've maybe hit just about 100, maybe a little bit more. Not much.
This is like wearing the all-nighters on your sleeve. You know, this is not something to brag about.
Wait. How fast have I gone, or how fast have I driven?
Driven, yeah.
Driven.
No, we've all been in.
Okay, yeah.
In control behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Yes, probably about just over 100. Not much more.
All right, Cormac.
In Germany?
Yeah.
In Germany, 172 miles.
Whoa!
What the?
In the United States, 168 miles an hour.
In what vehicle?
In the States, a Corvette Grand Sport.
Wow.
In
not
Germany,
a car you owned.
No.
Okay.
No. There's a very long story of that one, which involves a teenage baseball player, pro baseball player who was drunk and asked me to move his car, and I decided to move it
very fast,
very quickly,
very quickly.
Yeah. And in Germany, it was a very super tuned 1985 Mustang 5-liter or 5.0 GT, but it was aftermarket tuned by a German tuner.
Oh,
wow! That's
not my
just
car
freaking
either.
Nuts.
yeah. You beat me. Jeez. I've gone about 150 in a Corvette as well that I was driving at Willow Springs Racetrack. So
Holy crap!
pretty fun. And it's to me it's like reading that book Skunk Works, where the SR-71 got smoother the faster you went. Like that's how this Corvette was. I mean, you turn it on, you feel like it's going to shake itself to death, and the faster you go, the better it gets.
Yeah.
Had real sticky rubber on the tires. It was really fun.
I think this, if my memory serves me correctly, it was a 1996 Corvette Grand Sport.
Yeah, I don't know the year that
was.
mine was. It was bright yellow. It was a look at me yellow.
This one was the one that it was blue with the little the white stripe, the big white stripe down the middle, and then the two little blood stripes over the driver's side front tire.
Yeah.
I might have. I mean, it was so stupid. Me driving it where I drove it that fast, knowing that where I was driving it was right over. It's across this bridge, very long bridge, and there's this little hump in the bridge, and right on the other side of the hump, it usually is where the state troopers park and wait to pick off people. And I drove up to that, and then somebody was actually following behind me, thinking that they were going to catch up with me. And then right as I was getting close to the hump, I kind of hard brake, slowed down to 65, 70. Dude flew past me. They got busted.
Oh. Winning.
It was yeah.
Sucks to
All
be you.
sorts of dumb is what that was.
Yeah, kids, don't do this at home.
No, not at all. But come on, that was such a bad ride. Cars
Gotta love them.
go fast.
Look at that. First try, guys. It's like we
Getting good at
know
this.
what we're doing.
I will say that the best vehicle I've ever driven, type in HEMTT.
Oh,
Wait,
is this some
what?
army
Say that
vehicle?
again.
HEMTT.
MTT. Hemet? Holy
Hem-
fuck.
Heavy expandable mobile tactical truck.
Holy
You should have
shit.
mentioned that on the show.
That's awesome.
Got an amazing approach angle.
Oh my God. If you have ever driven a vehicle where you sit in front of the wheels,
Yeah, right.
it is a completely different way of driving.
I have not. That sounds fun.
So
Join the army, see the world.
You have to drive past your turn
Right.
and then turn.
Oh my
And it is
God.
such a
weird paradigm.
weird thing.
That
It
is
is.
awesome.
You more or less have to, here's the thing. You have to relearn how to drive because it's slightly different. But you also have to remember when you get out of that vehicle and get into a regular vehicle.
You got to switch your mindset.
You have to switch your mind back to turn before you. But it is, oh my God. I mean, it's an 8-wheel drive, so it's an 8x8.
Wow.
I will say this, when you're not pulling a missile launcher on the back, you know, because not everybody's going to pull a missile launcher every day. Sometimes you park your missiles. So when you do have that, those things can haul. I mean, they get pretty fast. And guess what? When you're driving down a small German road and you're going in one direction and a little German car is coming in the opposite direction, guess who wins in the space fight for space race?
Guess who moves in the game of chicken?
Yeah. It was, oh my God. I can just see the cars that we've done damage to.
All right. Later.
Later, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You all have a grant of the days.